In the second phase of Lunar 8 patch, which is the last patch of Not Cry, we're gonna have these banners with COLUMBINA and RAIDEN and the weapons. Alongside the 5-star characters, we're also having Ororon, Sethos, Jahoda. Alongside the 5-star weapons, we also have the 4-star weapons: Fab Bow, Fab Lance, Sack Sword, the Bell, and Wave Riding Whirl. So how good are these banners? Time to gap. I am the person who nerds a lot about calculating the character's damage number in the game, so I do have a perspective or two regarding this matter. Of course, I should do my usual disclaimer. All my advices during a banner review is only taken into account the meta strength of a character. I cannot tell you who to like, I cannot tell you who to dislike. That is a very personal thing. You know that best. So filter your personal opinion about characters with whatever information I can provide for you today, and that will form your final polling decision. COLUMBINA is an off-field character primarily. You can play her as an on-field DPS, but she requires a very specific support for her. That's Lauma. We're gonna talk more about that in a bit. Generally, COLUMBINA is an off-field hydro applicator and buffer character. She does a decent amount of damage in the right team. Here's the thing about COLUMBINA though. Her power only really shines when we have a Lunar team for her. Either a Lunar Charge with Flames in Nefer, or both. A Lunar Bloom team with Nefer, Lauma, a Lunar Crystallized team with Zubai, Linnea. Whichever path you go to, it still has to be a Lunar team. Her power is appropriately tuned as an Archon, and she has very little competition in her slot. So if you're looking for a hydro character for your Lunar team, she is the best character to do so. As an alternative option to COLUMBINA is Aino, and Aino is Aino. She's a genius, she's an inventor, she's amazing, she's cute in the story. When it comes to combat power in the game, she's a free character, and that shows. Moving on, since COLUMBINA is mostly a off-field DPS character and a support, her strength is dependent on the DPS characters that she supports. Incidentally, in the Lunar region, the Lunar DPSs are at the top of the DPS chart. Zubai, Nefer, and Flints. We all know that. That's all nice and well. But what about the future? We are going into Snezhnaya, an entirely new region, and we are certainly gonna have stronger characters, right? And then when Sarissa, the Cryo Archon, comes out, we're gonna have teams that's absolutely mocks Lunar teams, right? For that, you'll be correct. However, from now until then, it's still plenty of time. And two, having a second best team in the game that do not overlap with any Snezhnaya team is also incredibly important. If you want to tackle endgame that requires 2 teams, like Spiral Abyss, or endgame that requires 3 teams, like Stygian. So I imagine Stygian for the upcoming year is gonna look like Snezhnaya team, Not Cry team, and for the people who have vertically invested in the Mahuika and Skirk, then the Mahuika or Skirk. Or deeper into Snezhnaya region, it's gonna look like Snezhnaya team number 1, Snezhnaya team number 2, and then a 3rd team of your choice. That can be Mahuika or Skirk or Lunar DPSs, depending on what kind of enemy we are facing. I would say having 4 competent teams is still gonna be useful for swapping in and swapping out one teams when the enemies counter any particular one of them. So we have already established that Lunar teams are good. So how strong is COLUMBINA for Lunar teams exactly? Well, I can answer you. Because the competition of COLUMBINA is Aino, it's understandable that she kicks the shit out of that kid. COLUMBINA being in the team instead of Aino for a Flint's team from 103,000 to 142,000 damage per second. COLUMBINA being in a Nefer team, 109,000 to 143,000, and this is not even the best Nefer team. Technically, you can also use a non-defensive 4th slot for both the Aino version and the COLUMBINA version I show here, but the relative gain is roughly the same. And finally, do have a Zubai version. With COLUMBINA, Zubai is rocking 173,000 DPS with her premium team, and when we kick COLUMBINA out, we are left with 133. So consistently, we see that COLUMBINA over Aino C6, by the way, is around 30 to 40,000 DPS gain for the Lunar DPSs. She is the absolute necessary character for the Lunar DPS to reach their current height. So if you have a Lunar DPS and you would like to see them performing well, pull your COLUMBINA. If you don't have COLUMBINA, what are you doing? COLUMBINA could also function as an on-field DPS when you have Lauma specifically in a Lunar Bloom team. And in this kind of team, we are basically replacing Nefer with COLUMBINA to be the on-field DPS here. And generally, a full premium Nefer team at C0R0 of everyone is still performing better than a COLUMBINA DPS team with COLUMBINA C0R1. So mostly if you want to play this, it's because you don't have better options, but that is an alternative. COLUMBINA on-field DPS in a Lunar Charge team is not a thing. COLUMBINA on-field DPS in a Lunar Crystallized team is not a thing, unless you have incredibly high constellations on COLUMBINA to compensate for the power lost. Of course, if you have incredibly high constellations on characters, you can usually get away with quite a few things. But C6 COLUMBINA without Lauma, she's worse than Nefer. Oh well, I'm gonna take your word for it. Constellation is a C4 COLUMBINA haver. Let's move on from COLUMBINA. Raiden, the Inazuma Archon, and she's been an iconic character of the game for a very long time. She's an on-field Electro DPS. She does provide energy for the team. However, these days, characters are usually designed in a way that their burst don't really matter that much, because Stygian is a thing and that does not favor having a high cost burst. In terms of power, these days she cannot keep up at all. It's not even barely, she just cannot, which is unfortunate. The best team for Raiden right now, it's with COLUMBINA and Inefa wheelchair. I don't think that the Durin Nico at C0 is able to carry Raiden to that height. Obviously, C6R5 Durin Nico is more synergistic with Raiden, but at lower investment, best Raiden teams these days is COLUMBINA Inefa. Hyper Bloom Raiden with Lauma? Yeah, that's okay too. About equal to COLUMBINA Inefa version. So that is to say, you would only really pull this character for collection purpose. She is not receiving any buff recently, unlike a certain familiar of her having been receiving buffs and seeing great success. I decide to believe, cope, that they are saving the Raiden buff for a better occasion. That's they're gonna buff her more. Though in all honesty, if they are buffing Raiden, they are going to put her on banners when they buff her. So don't worry about that. So in summary, COLUMBINA is a good support and Raiden is technically, in my metric, decent DPS. There are characters that are worse than her, but spending your hard-earned Primogem to get Raiden right now is just not recommended. 4-star characters, Ororon, this guy right here, is an off-field Electro character. He synergized decently with some Natlan teams. He synergized decently with some Electro Charge team, not a Lunar Charge team. His damage is very pathetic. His main value is to be able to apply Electro and also holding the Natlan support set for a few niche teams. Now, if you have Mavuiga, Ororon is nice because he is present in a Mavuiga Overload team, and Ororon is nice quality of life because we don't really need to swap to him at all for him to apply Electro from Mavuiga and for Chavez team to continue getting the resistance threat on the enemy. So that is really the only team that you see him frequently in the meta these days. Ororon value is kind of tied to Mavuiga at this point. Now, his constellations from C0 to C5, it doesn't matter. C6, he gives an extra 30% attack to Mavuiga, and that's nice. But if you're nowhere close to C6, just get a C0 Ororon and move on with your life, because C6 4-star is very hard to come by. If you already have a C0 Ororon, if you already have a C1 Ororon, and you're not willing to risk a 5-star, I would recommend getting away from this banner. His C6 is nice, but it's not amazing. Sethos is an on-field Electro DPS. His niche is he sucks. I'm sorry, I'm too mean. His original niche is Quicken and Aggravate, but that is so far out of meta nowadays that putting him on some kind of wheelchair is usually more favorable. And there are a lot of characters that can rock a wheelchair better than this guy. He's too stylish for the wheelchair. No, not and to dash and to walk, my friend. And to walk, that's where the money is at. Final 4-star characters on this banner is Jahoda. Jahoda is a okay healer, Anemo off-field character. She provides a tiny bit of a buff at C0, and once again, a lot of her power is locked in her C6. That said, even at C6, Jahoda is still being gapped by the humble Sucrose, a character that we can always select for free from the Hexen Circle quest to remind people after we done the Hex and Circle quest, we can choose one between Fischl, Sucrose, and Razor. So Sucrose is always free. And Sucrose is not a picky girl. So at C0, she will already mock Jahoda. The only value that Jahoda provides that Sucrose cannot is healing. That can matter for some people. I do recognize that. I would say that Jahoda C6 is not really worth to break any bank over. The reason that Jahoda feels bad to play is that her animation is so long. Let me just grab both Sucrose and Jahoda and illustrate the difference for people. Let's say this is my DPS. He can be a DPS, it doesn't matter. Normally, we want to switch to support and do things as fast as possible so that we can get back to the DPS. But here is the problem. When we use Sucrose, even when we use her burst, done. When we use Jahoda, we hold her skill. Now we can swap to the DPS. Let's check. I'm gonna try to do this as fast as possible. I'm just gonna swap Yamiko, Sucrose, and Jahoda. This is not a real team, by the way. This is just for demonstration purpose. I'm gonna swap Yamiko, Sucrose, Jahoda, and then we'll see how long it takes for each of them.
Come on now, right now.
I'm gonna use Sucrose burst as well, and then Jahoda skill burst. Cool. Combat logs. So we can see that we swap to Yamiko at 0.779, 2.94 minus 0.779. So it takes about 2 seconds for Yamiko to be on field. It takes Sucrose 1.8 seconds to be on field. And how long does it take Jahoda? Almost 5 seconds. 4.8 seconds. You can see that this is more than doubling every other regular support. This is the time we are losing. This is the time we are not doing damage with the on-field DPS. So even though Jahoda C6 buffs is quite a bit, it's still offset by her terrible quality of life. That quality of life is so we have to spend so much time on her. The time we spend on Jahoda can be interrupted and can become even longer when we get ragdolled by the enemy, when the elemental aura on the enemy is inconsistent. We're gonna have to take longer time on Jahoda's as well. Jahoda's skill is just the same as Mizuki ones. The difference is that Mizuki is intended to be an on-field character, while Jahoda is supposed to be a character that uses skill fast and then swap off. Problem is she doesn't use skill fast. Let me wrap the banners up. Banner value summary. COLUMBINA is a good character. Ororon is a good minus character. Situationally good. The only situation he is good in is in a Movika team. I think I make that abundantly clear. Sethos is a situationally decent character. Decent minus character. He only becomes decent when you invest a lot into a wheelchair for him. And even then, he's not that good. Jahoda, at C6, she is decent. Before C6, she's just decent minus. So, the overall value of this banner is a bit tough for me. None of these 4 stars interact meaningfully with the 5 star on banner, which is COLUMBINA. So, I am torn between a good minus rating or a decent rating for this banner, but I think I'm gonna have to go with a decent rating. If you need a COLUMBINA for your Lunar teams, and usually your Lunar characters desperately wants a COLUMBINA, I wish you get a COLUMBINA quickly and just get out. RAIDEN is a decent character. Yeah, 4 stars, non-synergistic. This is straight up a bad banner. COLUMBINA's weapon is the best in slot for COLUMBINA. So low base attack, high crit, it's generally more useful for the characters that do not scale from attack, so characters that scales of elemental mastery, defense, or HP. The passive is kind of not that useful for many characters. However, it can be useful for Novelet because it increases a bit of HP. It can be also useful for Morlani too. And it's actually useful for Nefer if you do not have Nefer's signature weapon, because this also increases the crit damage from Lunar reaction, which Nefer does. Raiden weapon. I don't know if it's even best in slot for Raiden anymore, but it doesn't really matter because Raiden is not a character that we use a lot these days. The weapon is a high energy recharge and high attack weapon, so it can be used on some support character that once recharge and attack stat, Shenhe, Ian-san, and in the near future, Alyosha. Though keep in mind that if you use the Raiden's weapon on these characters, you are going to lose out on the support capability of using Favonius Lance on them. Favonius Lance also allows us to give the team energy as well. Incidentally, Favonius is also on here. Favonius Lance is arguably the most valuable weapon on this banner. Favonius is definitely more valuable than every other 4-star weapons in here and more valuable than Raiden's weapon. I'm just a little bit on COLUMBINA weapon. Sure, you know what? I will say Favonius Lance is the second most here. I'm not gonna slander COLUMBINA's weapon. It's not like Furina's weapon where it's absolute dog shit. It does give energy for COLUMBINA, which she likes. So Favonius Lance, a universal support weapon for support polearm characters. Favonius series is just goated in general due to the fact that it gives extra energy for the entire team, so we can give even more support capability to our support characters and buff the main DPS more. Think about it like this: if we can give energy from the support to the main DPS, we can reduce the main DPS energy recharge stats and funnel that into more offensive stats for the main DPS. I do understand if you're not really a meta player that's willing to reset your Abyss or Stygian Clear a ton of times, not getting the Favonius proc on a low refinement 5 can be frustrating, and that can be a source of disliking the weapon. I do understand that, and that's why I say at low refinement, the 5 weapons are a tiny bit lower in terms of ranking. 5 Lance, good minus at low refinement and good at high refinement. Favonius Bow is good minus at high refinement and decent at low refinement because they are a bit less bow support characters that are relevant than polearm support characters. Sacrificial Sword is only really useful on Xingqiu, and Xingqiu is not that relevant these days. It's a decent ER static if you don't have Favonius Sword. Sac Sword Xingqiu 6, it's not even Xingqiu 6. It's usable by Xingqiu, but Fab Sword is better than Sac Sword for Xingqiu. The reason we often see Sac Sword on Xingqiu, and I think my Xingqiu have Sac Sword. Oh, never mind. The only reason I would put Xingqiu Sac Sword is because I need Fab Sword on someone else, and Xingqiu is a character that can use this the best. It does not mean it's the best for him. Sac Sword extends his field time, so we're gonna run into Jahoda's problem. Sac Sword also gives Hydro energy, because using Xingqiu's skill again, we give Hydro energy. In some situation, we want, say, Pyro energy for Bennett, then Favonius give clear particles will help Bennett more than Hydro energy. It's sometimes very useful Kazuha. I agree, that is a use case I agree with, especially for the recent bosses where we have to do 2 Kazuha skills very fast, and in that case we want Kazuha burst specifically. Kazuha with Sac Sword has seen some use lately. The Bell, the Claymore is absolute dog shit. No character in this game likes the stat that this weapon gives. Move on. Wave Riding Whir. This weapon gives energy recharge and HP. Kind of usable on Neuvillette, Mualani, and Columbina. Is good minus at refinement 5, but to get refinement 5 of this weapon is incredibly hard. Mostly because this weapon is not even appearing on the regular banner at all. If we just randomly pulling on some weapon banner or character banner, we cannot get that 4-star weapon. We can only get this limited 4-star weapon on the banner it appears on. At low refinement, is not really worth using at all. So let's summary for this entire weapon banner. Columbina's weapon is a good weapon. It's okay as a static for Neuvillette, Mualani, and Nefer. Raiden's weapon is a decent weapon, mocked by Favonius Lance. Faf Bow is good minus at high refinement and decent at low refinement. Faf Lance, good minus at low refinement and good at high refinement. Sac Sword at low refinement, it's decent minus, at high refinement it's decent. Bell, just always bad. Wave Riding War, decent at low refinement and good minus at high refinement. Overall, this banner, the 4 stars honestly carry this. Faf Lance honestly carries this. There is a real case to be made if you want to pull on this banner in hope of getting one of the 5 weapon. This is a good minus weapon banner. Obviously, once again, know the risk if you are going into a banner hoping to pull a specific 4-star, either that's a weapon or that's a character. You should accept that risk because there's no guarantee for 4-star weapons or characters. You should set out a budget. If I don't get, say, 5 lands within 40 pulls, I should get off. I should not get into sunk cost fallacy. I should talk a tiny bit more about Columbina Constellation before I wrap this up. Columbina Constellations is of varying level of usefulness in different lunar teams. Columbina Constellation in a Flames team. C1 Columbina is a 7% team damage increase and C2 is 25%, so C2 is big here. However, getting an Inefa C1 R1 is 29% increase, so there are some slightly better options. We're gonna have a similar story in a Nefer team here. BINA C2 is 20% increase for this team. Meanwhile, having a Nefer C1 R1, so also 2 more 5-star, is 35% increase. Nefer C2 is is 34% increase, Llama C2 is 34% increase, while BINA C2 is only 20%. C1 is Dark Water in this team. BINA weapon in a Never team is 7%, BINA weapon in a Flint's team, did I not calculate that? Oh, that's an oversight. About 10% from the top of my memory. Let's look at Zubai team. BINA's R1 is 11% here, BINA C1 is 7%, and BINA C2 is 32%. So BINA constellation in Zubai team is quite nice. Compared to a Zubai C2, 33%, compared to a Linnea C2, which is 36%, this is still technically the worst C2 you can get, but it's extremely close. And you can see a pattern here. A BINA C2, it's usually a tiny bit below some other options you can get for these teams, but BINA C2 gives you the flexibility of playing her in a different Lunar teams. Maybe you have a Flint's team and a Zubai team. Getting a BINA C2, you will increase the strength of both teams. In a situation that you need a Lunar Crystallized team for a Lunar Crystallized boss, that Lunar Crystallized team is also strengthened by C2 Columbina. And in a situation that you need to deal with, say, Nakodako, the duck, and you need a Lunar Charge team, that Lunar Charge team is also stronger with BINA C2. So there's some advantages there compared to, say, getting a Zubai C2, and that's only improving your Lunar Crystallized team. So you pay the generalist tax, get a tiny bit lower gain, but be able to play her in more teams. That's an okay balancing decision in my book. So now you know about the strength of COLUMBINA and RAIDEN in the meta right now. But if you want to know about the future meta in Snezhnaya, then click on this video. In that video, I talk more about leaks of future Snezhnaya characters and how strong they are going to be. Good luck with the characters that you've decided to pull on.